Hey guys. So today you and I are going to talk about large-scale front-end development. So let's get into it. So the question in question is a little bit of a story, so let me just read it through. Hey Frederick, I haven't finished the video yet, so this was posted on one of my videos. If I recall correctly, this was the video where I tried to give an example of how to deal with a very large Redux state in a React application. I'll add another comment if I have questions regarding the video. Lately I have been searching for resources, books, tutorials and people on Medium for large-scale front-end applications. There's a lot of resources for small apps, but I'm currently applying for a position on a React TypeScript app which is fairly large. I would like to have a better understanding of the different problems that can be encountered at large scale and potential solutions before having to deal with them. I have been mostly working in isolation or small teams with low quality standards. It's been difficult for me to evolve rapidly. I'm working on selecting better companies at this moment. This tutorial is a perfect example and thank you for it. Do you have a recommendation of advanced resources that could help me? I will most likely take Bob Martin's books, and it seems that they are references for enterprise software, but they seem more oriented towards back-end software and object-oriented principle. What do you have as a suggestion? Well, Bob Martin is not going to help you with large-scale front-end development. That's for damn sure. The books are great. Like if you're into learning pretty much, if you want a really strong foundation in, as the subscriber is saying, in object-oriented principles and back-end work and architecture and so forth, Bob Martin is a very good person to listen to. Don't take everything with a pinch of salt, because being a purist is never the way. Eric Evans and Domain-Driven Design is also an amazing book for systems development and backend development in general. When it comes to front-end, I'm just gonna tell you, there's nothing. I've never seen it. Not a single thing out there I've ever seen is in anywhere remotely touching the problems of front-end development we have today. There's literally everybody's kind of just figuring stuff out at this point, and it is probably the greatest criticism that I can give to the front-end community. Nobody can align on how to do things, and everybody is inventing different ways of doing things that are sort of useful, but there's no blueprint. The maturity of the back-end work process is a million times more developed than front-end. I would even go as far as to say that I have never met a senior, like a true senior front-end developer. I've never done it. I've never met a software developer who I felt had such a good understanding of front-end development practices that if I put that person in charge or I put that person in a project, that everything's going to turn out fine. I've never, ever. And that's, I know that sounds cynical, but honestly, even the guys that I've worked with, and the girls as well, I have never worked with a female senior front-end developer, but I've worked with male front-end seniors, so called. They still can't get this right. Like the projects are still pretty much shit. Well, they turn into shit very quickly, and we have literally exactly the same actually, problems in every single project. And I read a fair amount of newsletters and articles, and I am constantly on the lookout for any consistent source of information when it comes to high quality development processes and practices in front-end, and I always come back to the same thing. There is like almost nothing in terms of books or tutorials or anything like that, apart from like bits and pieces here and there. Like one article here might mention some little thing that might be useful, but it's not like it never gives you like a holistic understanding of the thing. So sure, I don't have it. I don't have the links. I'm very sorry to say at the top of my head, but I could, of course, going back and look at the articles that I've read that I thought, oh, this was kind of useful. But it's not really going to help someone, at least from my perspective, get a more holistic understanding of what the problems of large-scale front-end development is. I will say that for myself, I have probably I've been very fortunate, and honestly, I still think that I'm kind of reaping a few of the benefits of one of my previous employments, where I was in a very tough spot where I became in charge practically for quite some time of taking care of like the biggest front-end code base I've ever dealt with at one of the bigger companies in Europe, and probably in the US as well. I'm not sure. And that process was I worked there for a few years, and during that process I learned quite a lot. I made the same mistakes that most front-end developers make, and I started reflecting on those mistakes. And in my current company, I'd like to think that I'm very involved in mitigating these problems, and I keep on seeing the same problems over and over, and I see the solutions to those problems. There are like people here and there who might be like who are worth hearing out, but I don't really see them produce the sort of stuff that you're looking for. I think the closest to anybody I've ever seen who has like a fairly consistent good attitude towards certain areas of front-end development would be Kent Dodds. He has, as far as I know, he does egghead videos and stuff like that. He used to work for PayPal. I've read a few of his articles. Like I don't follow him or anything like that, but I've seen a few things that I thought, well, he's actually touching on some important. We have a difference of opinion on some things, of course, but some things he does is actually very useful. It's the same thing. It's really hard to find like really good software developers that you can consistently get information from. So I'm gonna have to disappoint you. I'm gonna have to say that and this, it sounds so bad when I say this, and I'm sorry that I have to say this, but I really believe that the only consistent source of information for like large scale like development in JavaScript and Node, where you'll get tips and tricks at the very least, not like a full course, anything like that, with how how to deal with a lot of the problems that are very common in larger applications in frontend, is on this channel. I know it sounds horrible, and I'm not trying to do a plug or anything like that. I really wish that the answer was different, but I really can't find anywhere. Most of the stuff that I find, as this subscriber is explaining, is like really trivial stuff, like how you can do some tricks with some CSS, or like sure, quirky things that might be sort of useful. That's not really going to make you into a senior front-end developer who really knows how to scale a product, because the fundamental problem of front-end is not how do I use CSS variable in a better way, or do I use CSS in JS versus CSS. These battles are completely arbitrary bullshit that some people swear by and some people don't swear by. It's completely besides the point. You can make these things work for you. You don't like, and people are discussing this as if this is the important part. The important part has always been and is still a problem. The problem is that you can't scale a large system with a lot of developers. The community in frontend is shit when it comes to large scale development. Everybody's really good at taking care of their own corner and doing their own thing and optimizing their own workflow, but getting people to collaborate and getting people to actually produce consistently good applications and good code bases is nigh on impossible. And I do blame, this is me getting a little bit personal, but I do blame it's not a bad thing necessarily, but we're using it in a really bad way. It's a double-edged sword for me. The constant hype around tooling and developer experience has taken such precedency in the front-end community that people they practically don't care about how to produce good software. They care about what tool to use, which framework should I use in order to do this thing, or which like how can I somehow do some little trivial quirky thing with my Webpack loaders that makes it much more performant or whatever. When the reality of the situation is that these discussions, they ultimately lead to a bunch of people having differences of opinion on how to do something, and they produce legacy code bases faster than anything I've ever seen before. Backend has nowhere near this problem. So what I want you to take away from this is that I'm very sorry to say that I don't really have any good, consistent sources of information for you when it comes to scaling large-scale front-end applications. It's really, really hard to find good information on this, and I'm embarrassed to have to say that I really don't have any better source where you get consistent information on this topic than my own channel. I wish I could give you a different answer, and maybe someone will post something on my video here and give me some information about, oh, this person here is doing some really awesome stuff that you can learn from, but I still haven't found it. And trust me, I subscribe to all of the front-end newsletters, and I keep my ear to the ground trying to find somewhere where you can get consistent information. There are certainly a lot of small articles that teach you something useful, or something like that can be kind of useful, but getting this like seniority perspective on how to do good front-end development, I've found that the only way I ever achieved that or anything remotely like that has been by going through the pain, just working experience, because there's not that many teachers of any seniority in the front-end space who really are who's really touching this sort of area. There's a lot of people who are in the performance space or the design space, or like niched on some very little part, but the holistic like architecture and like how to really deal with the serious issues, there's nobody as far as I know. Have a great day.